Morning, everybody. Thank you. Please be seated and please call the case.
Good morning, Your Honors. The matter before the court today is the case entitled In Re Costco Wholesale Administrative Decision, case number 24 AP 126. Representing the appellant, RL Valley Inc., is Alexander LaRosa. Representing the appellee, Costco Wholesale Corporation, is Mark Hall.
Thanks very much. Good morning again, counsel. We'll hear from counsel for the appellant, please. Come on up. And for the record, introduce yourself and identify your client and then proceed.
Thank you and good morning. My name is Alexander LaRosa with the firm MSK Attorneys in Burlington, Vermont, and I am here today representing appellant RL Valley Inc. in this matter.
Thank you.
The briefs in this case are extensive, and at this time, RL Valley Inc. will be relying on those and ask that the court grant the relief sought in the briefs. And if the court has questions on those briefs, I am more than happy to answer them. But given the extensiveness of the pleadings, we'll be relying on those pleadings this morning. And I would reserve the remainder of my time unless there's questions. Thank you.
Okay. Good. Yep. All right. Thanks very much. Then we'll turn to counsel for the appellee, please. And if you do the same for the record, introduce yourself, identify your client, and then proceed.
Yes, Your Honor. My name is Mark Hall. I work at Paul Franklin Collins. I represent Costco Wholesale Corporation in this land use appeal. Much like my co-counsel indicated, this has been briefed to death. I think, however, from my perspective, we think it's really a three-fact, three-sentence type of case in which Costco has, at this point, come into compliance with all conditions of its permit necessary to operate a gas station full time. And as such, all the other issues are, in this case, are moot or decided. I don't think there's very little point in going through the legal arguments associated, I call them the legacy arguments from the limited hours of operations, when it's clear that the conditions of 10E were met. One, when the exit 16 improvements began construction. Two, when we did the signal time modification and improved the local highway. With those two things being completed, there's nothing left for Costco to do to operate a full-time gas station and occupy its new expansion. If there's any questions about that, I don't think there's very little to talk about. The fact of the construction is not contested. The fact that the study was done is not contested, and the language of the provisions are not ambiguous. So with that, unless you have any questions, I will sit down.
Well, do I understand the issue is whether full-time hours was a material change? And what's your position about that?
It's not a material change because that's the language of 10A has been the same since 2013. And all it required is once the construction, it's a couple of things required. We can open full time. We're not prohibited from opening if the exit 16 starts, construction starts, or we do the Lower Mountain View Drive improvements.
Has the exit 16 construction started?
It has.
It has, because
you approved it.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, we've been parallel as we've been going, and it started in February 23, and that's when we decided we would open without going back to get a permit amendment, because there was no amendment to get because the permit was self-executing. When we got approved for the limited hours, it was only an interim measure until such time as conditions 10, condition 29A and 29E were met. Subsequently, 29A has been met, what is now 10A has been met, and what is now 10E has been met. So there's nothing for us to go back to seek approval for.
And Mr. Hall, it is Costco's challenge of 10E and 10A preserved
We preserve those, yes, Your Honor.
under 6K or under previously under
In our motion statement of issues.
statement of issues.
We think at this point, even those arguments are really moot as well, because if we're compliant, we're compliant. So how we get there really doesn't matter. I raised the mootness issue in this case because there was a challenge as to the jurisdiction of the court to be able to review the possibility of full-time hours under 10A, because 10A was never brought before anyone on an appeal. And I think the mootness issue can always be raised. And given that we're compliant with the very provision that has kept us from operating full-time, makes everything go away, in my mind.
I'm good. Okay,
Thank you.
thank you very much. I'm not gonna ask how much time the appellant has, but maybe just to, make sure I don't miss something, please, tell us.
Appellant has 14 minutes, 31 seconds
Yeah,
remaining.
okay. Counsel.
Again, we think these issues have been addressed in the briefs. We think the questions the court posed to counsel for Costco are addressed in the briefs. We trust that this court will diligently read those as it always does, and will rely on those at this time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you both. Please call a conclusion here.
The next hearing for the court is scheduled for 11:30 this morning.